As we roll out these 2015 products, looking at various market forces we see affecting structural engineering companies include the adoption rate of BIM. Back in 2008, about 33% of structural engineering companies were using BIM. We're seeing that rate at about 66% today, according to an ENR published survey that just came out. So as contractors, owners, designers continue to adopt BIM at a rapid pace, the demand for structural engineering firms who have embraced this workflow increases. This helps those firms to gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Also in that same study, over 70% of the respondents reported seeing no increase in their design fees even when having to work in BIM. So this is forcing firms to be more efficient in order to seek those competitive advantages and foster growth. And as today's environment increasingly demands businesses that are more efficient and designs that adhere to more stringent structural design codes, building teams can turn to software solutions to create more efficient structures while also being able to provide designs that weren't able to be done before, giving you an opportunity to expand your customer base. And how do we do this? Well, Autodesk has a suite of software available, including tools to do the modeling, that's Revit, do the design analysis, that's Robot Structural, and also to do fabrication work now. So they've purchased a new product, Advanced Steel, and with Advanced Steel we can actually now take the product or take our buildings all the way from conceptual to full design into fabrication. So that's what this topic, or the agenda for today is going to be about. We're going to look at the products Advanced Steel, Robot Structural Analysis Professional, a new offering as well from Autodesk, Structural Bridge Design, for those of us who are designing bridges and not buildings. And we'll also do a demonstration of the what's new features for Revit Structure 2015. So Advanced Steel. As mentioned, this is a newly acquired product for Autodesk. However, this product isn't new to the marketplace, having been previously released by Graytech. So it has been out there, it has been vetted. The great thing about it is it sits right on top of AutoCAD. So for any fabricators who are using 2D AutoCAD software, they can keep using that same workflow, adding in the more robust 3D tools, and they'll be ready to take Revit models and bring those right into fabrication drawings. So the product itself is able to model, whether you want to model from all the way from the beginning, or if you want to import a Revit model, you can model the beams and columns in here or import them. You can also add in your structural connections, and it's not just adding them in to the model, but the program will actually is able to design the connections. So you're able to use your AISC design code and receive a connection capacity right out of the program. So if you're an engineer of record and you're not involved in the fabrication process, you can still use this tool as a review checker. And you'll see once you're spending the time to check these things, maybe there's the opportunity to bring more work in-house and actually take part of that fabrication work away from the connection engineers. The program is also able to do all the miscellaneous metals that fabricators need, rails, stairs, and ladders, as well as extensive sheet and plate work, able to bend plates in multiple directions and then unfold them so that you can create some shop drawings out of a multi-dimensional bent plate. And now with the purchase with Autodesk, it is now fully supported with Revit and can round trip in and out of Revit. Documentation tools are the most important part of the fabrication process, and Advanced Steel comes with a full suite of the ability to create your arrangement drawings, your shop drawings, customized bill of materials. The program also supports export to CNC formats, currently the DSTV file format. So that will save you some time in your fabrication shop. And it also has a built-in document control manager. So this tracks all the revisions as you release sheets. If there's any changes to your model, the document control manager will alert you that the sheet that's been released is not the most up-to-date in relationship to the 3D model. So that's a great time saver internally to make sure everybody's on the same page with the same information. It's fully interoperable, like I mentioned, with Revit. It also is now interoperable with Autodesk Robot Structural Analysis and Autodesk Navisworks. Unlike other AutoCAD programs, it does have the ability to do work sharing similar to Revit. So you can have a centralized file, and each individual user can pull out parts of that and work on them, checking them in and out of the main model. quite similar to a Revit Central model and a local copy. So summing up Advanced Steel, it's a new offering that completes the structural workflow by adding a leading fabrication software to the package. Built right on top of AutoCAD, it allows users of traditional 2D systems a smooth transition into 3D technology, allowing increased efficiency and reduction in errors. The next program I'll talk about is Robot Structural Analysis Professional. And that gives Autodesk users, this product will increase your efficiency in the analysis and design of your models, due mainly to its close interoperability with Revit, and now Advanced Steel as well. So adopting Robot allows firms to embrace the whole BIM approach. For structural engineers, true BIM approach would be having our design model and our analysis model together. And Robot Structural Analysis provides the closest link that you're going to find to that, being that they both come from Autodesk. Robot brings with it advanced element meshing, a wide range of analysis types, and state-of-the-art analysis solvers, allowing for the design of increasingly complex structures. It actually will be usable for complex bridges as well, or in these examples here, we're seeing some tanks designed, the walls of the tanks, or typical building analysis that you're used to seeing. Being that it's a finite element machine, it can do multiple types of analysis. It does contain more than 40 international steel codes and 30 international reinforcing concrete codes. The design modules allow for quick resizing of members, which can then be round-tripped right back into Revit. So this helps simplify the design process and assists with selection, evaluation, and optimization of your structural steel or your reinforced concrete systems. So the bottom line is Autodesk Robot Structural Analysis Pro helps provide faster calculation and simulation of complex models and design of members, along with enhanced collaboration and workflow for Revit Structure and now Advanced Steel. So this provides opportunity to structural design firms for business growth, spurred by efficiency in the BIM process. Another new offering is structural bridge design. So in the fall of 2013, Autodesk acquired the company Bestech Systems Limited and their software offering SAM Integrated Bridge Design Software. So this allows Autodesk to offer a comprehensive bridge design solution to the structural engineering industry for the design of small to medium span bridges. This is now offered as a branded product, Autodesk Structural Bridge Design, or we're shortening that to SBD. So currently SBD is a standalone application, but it does have the ability to interface with AutoCAD for importing and exporting cross sections and that type of thing. The functionality of SBD is broken down into 3 modules. So you have your section design module, your girder design module, and your bridge analysis module. In the section design module, you can define the cross-sectional geometry of your bridge members. This program will provide you with the automatic section properties. So this is a big time saver for complex geometry that you can't easily calculate in a spreadsheet. Think about the example there on the right of a triangle member with a circle cut out of it that's offset from the center. That would not be an easy thing to calculate, especially through the iteration of design changes. This program will do that for you, no problem. The second module is girder design module. In here you consider the full length of a structural member, analyzing the forces such as moment, shear. It also can deal with things like shrinkage and temperature change. So these can also be phased during the life cycle of a member, whether you're talking about during the construction time or through its actual life in the bridge. You can phase your loading patterns as well. And then the third module analyzes the entire bridge in its full structure, and that contains the code checking process. So the analysis there is done live, and you're able to see how changes to section properties or to your load paths will affect your design, allowing you to set those final section properties during the analysis part. The available codes, we have, for American codes, we have AASHTO LRFD 4th and the AASHTO 17th edition. We also have UK, Australia, New Zealand, and European codes available, and I'm sure more to be released as they are out there. The deliverables for SBD or SDB are the detailed calculation reports. So these things are formatted in a unique way. It takes the form of a hand-typed calculation, giving you the ability to easily check the sheets and circumvent any lengthy post-processing that is typically done. So a lot of bridge designers will get the results and the forces out of their current program, and then they'll use Excel or another type of spreadsheet to process and actually get the final designs. Well, in this program, you can do everything inside of one location. So View Analysis offers such a robust integrated code checker, and this one, without having to deal with spreadsheets, you're not dealing with the overhead of maintaining those spreadsheets as well. So that brings it all into one environment without the need for importing, exporting, or converting data. Designs can be achieved with greater speed in one environment and ensures that all data is consistent and accurate. So this software package is that one all-in-one solution for small to medium span girder type deck bridges, allowing for the design of sections, beams, and full bridge models. All right, so I'm going to jump into Revit now and go ahead and do a little demonstration of some of the new features for you guys. All right, so the first new feature we'll look at has to do with scheduling. If we look at a traditional Revit schedule, right now before 2015, we were only able to put in text. They've now added a new ability to add an image to a file. So we'll look at adding an image to a file. When you're in the schedule, you're able to select in that image column, go into this dialog box, and actually add in images that you may have loaded into your Revit project. So I'm going to go ahead and assign a couple of these as appropriate. These are Simpson products, some cap plates and some post anchors. We go back into our page, and we can see that that's now filled into our schedule. So what this allows us to do is really convey that design information down the line and make sure that what we're trying to specify is exactly what's ordered. Another new feature has to do with a view reference. So inside of a file, when you cut a section, you are always able to reference another view. However, once you chose which view you were referencing, this would be locked after that. So if I were to reference an elevator detail and then realize that I wanted to actually reference a stair detail, I would have to delete this section and start over. Well, now you're able to select that section and just change which view you're referencing. So that's a new feature to speed up your modeling time and enhance your references. Another simple new feature, but one that really will pay off when you have a lot of different views in your project browser, is the way the duplicating the view naming is. Before, when you would right-click and try to duplicate a view, the name would say copy of and then whatever level it was. Well, the project browser is most of the time in alphabetical order. That would cause your copy of level 2 to jump up above all the rest. Well, now they've redone how they rename these, and it says level 2, copy 1, leaving this in the project browser in the appropriate place that you'd want to see it. There's some new features with the parameters of a family. If you look at a family set of parameters, before these were kind of locked into the order that they sat in there. Now when you build your own parameters, you can change their order and when they're going to show up in your project browser or your properties palette. So that's a new feature. You can also, when you add a parameter, you can now add a tooltip. So if you're building custom parameters and you have people in your firm that aren't familiar with what is supposed to be going into these parameters, your BIM manager or your family creator can now add a tooltip so that they can understand what they're trying to, what kind of piece of information you're trying to get into there. Up to 250 characters is what that'll allow you to do. Another new feature has to do with the elevation of a footing. Previously, there was no way to actually tag, not smartly anyway, to tag a top of footing elevation. This footing sits down on my top of footing level, which in my project is 10 feet below the main level. if I go and edit my tag, we now have an ability to add elevation at top as a default parameter now. So before, this was being done with a schedule workaround or some other way to do it. Now it's just right out of the box. They've changed the way pinned items work. So in the past, if you selected an object that was pinned and you tried to move it, that's what the pin prevented. But if you tried to delete it, it would just delete. Now it won't delete right away. It'll give you this error message telling you should either first unpin it, or through the error message you can come in here, select the object, and actually say delete checked, and now it will go away. So it's a little more protection for you if you've taken the time to pin an object because you don't want to move it. Chances are you probably don't want it deleted either. So this is a good system to protect that. Some of the structural specific changes have to do with the analytical models. If we go and we look at one of the analytical model displays, we can now turn on a local coordinate system for each member. So if we go into our visibility graphics, to our analytical model categories tab, and expand out these different items, you'll see that this local coordinate system feature was never there before. It is now. If you turn that on and you look at what that does, it will actually help you see which way these members were drawn. So now I'm able to tell that this one was drawn one way compared to this one. We also have the ability to show that in another way. In the analytical model settings, we can differentiate the ends of our models. So we can do that, and now you'll see there's green at this end and red at this end. So this model, this line was drawn from left to right, where this line was drawn from right to left. Not that this matters in a Revit model, but this greatly affects your analysis model. If you're trying to set your end releases and you can't determine which way is the start and which way is the end when you're in your properties over here, this will visually show that to you. Another enhanced feature for 2015 allows us to add fabric sheets, reinforcement wire fabric, per sheet. In the past, we had fabric area, and we can define an area and place sheets through the whole area. Now we can actually place sheet by sheet. So wherever we want it to be, we can click, and those kind of snap to each other and overlap as needed. But if you need to even go off of a surface, then it will overlap an edge of a surface. It will trim the sheet as needed. So that's a new feature for wire welded reinforcement. There's some new features as well for beam controls. In the past, it was quite difficult to get a beam to stretch and attach to the piece that you wanted it to. Now these little triangle handles work quite well, and so if this beam went all the way through the column, this one stopped at the beam, now I can control that. Before, Revit, this column would just take precedent and cut all of those beams out of there. Now you can override that and force it. This is part of tying into the fabrication process. So by bringing advanced steel on board and by wanting your model to be more precise for fabrication, we now have these abilities to draw these lines exactly where we need them. So if we were to look in 3 dimensions, you can see I'm able to control that intersection. There's some new enhancements for revisions. Before, when you went to draw a revision cloud, you were basically drawing 2 little arches at a time over and over and over. Now you can use the full amount of drawing commands that you're used to having. So when you go to a revision cloud, you can now draw all the different shapes that Revit has. So if you choose the square, you can draw right around to something, and it'll draw a lot easier. Before, that was every one of these 2 bumps would be a click. So you can imagine how many clicks that would have taken to draw that last release. You can also control the size of those. So if you go into your revision manager, you're able to go into the revision manager and control the arc length. So if you wanted it bigger, you can make it 2 inches. If you wanted it smaller, you can make it a 1/2 inch. So this is all controllable by the user now. The other thing you can do in that revisions manager is now you can actually delete a row right out of the middle. So in past releases, you would have to combine your revisions. Now if you want to delete a middle one, You know, it's going to tell you you're going to lose your clouds and tags, but if that's really what you want to do, you now have that ability. And there's a few enhancements to the display of rebar. So this will be what I close with. If we look at showing rebar sets, let me just change some settings here. All right, so we're seeing a group of rebar, and maybe that's too busy for the display that we want on our drawing. We can now control how many of those bars actually show up. So if we want to do just the last 2 bars, or the middle bar, or if we want to decide to select some bars, we can maybe pick the first 3 on each end, say finish, and now those are the only bars that will show up in our reinforcement plan. So this gives you the ability to kind of control when you have repetitive bars over an area. You don't necessarily need to show all 500 of them. Showing a few and putting a dimension for the spacing will be enough to get your message across and convey that